President Trump should hit organizers of the migrant caravan with sanctions as the border migration is down 55% since May. Time to get tough. Hello, this is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button. Today, we're going to be talking about the southern border crisis and the wave of people who are coming to the United States. Fiscal year 2019 is a record. We're going to come in close to 1 million people who have been apprehended on the southern border. Good job, Border Patrol, apprehending almost 1 million people. And the bad news is it's because there's so many more people who are coming. They're being organized into these migrant caravans for the past 3 years, and 2019 is a record. Maybe President Trump needs to start cracking down on these organizations that are organized this. August 2019 still almost 19,000 more than August of 2018. So there's clearly more that needs to be done to secure the border. And I think it's because the organizers of the caravan, this group Village Without Borders, Pueblos Sin Fronteras, they remain fully operational. They operate out of Central America. And they're organizing the migrant caravans, or they're chiefly responsible for the most out front organization on this. They raise money to do it, and it comes out of Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, and then works its way through Mexico and to the United States. Bustle's Lonnie Seelinger reported favorably last October that they build shelters along the migration routes and organize these caravans. That sounds like they're actually building shelters along the way. And this is helping to transport tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to the United States with the purpose of coming into the country illegally. I think President Trump could certainly crack down on that. That sounds an awful lot like 22 U.S.C. Section 7102. That this is 7102. This is human trafficking victims protection chapter in federal statutes. And President Trump, he could determine that this is a severe form of trafficking on the southern border. It says under subsection 11, severe forms of trafficking in persons. If President Trump determines this to be the recruitment, harboring, transportation, or provision of obtaining a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion, he could call this severe trafficking. And I think that that's certainly what could be happening here. They're inducing people to violate the law. Under subsection 1, it says the term abuse or threatened abuse of legal process means the use or threatened use of law or legal process, whether administrative, civil, or criminal, in a manner or for any purpose for which the law was not designed, in order to exert pressure on another person to cause that person to take some action or refrain from taking some action. So in this case, they're being encouraged to break the law. And I think that you can just hear some testimonials from migrants who have been recruited by Village Without Borders, this Pueblo Sin Fronteras group. This is Darland Adelaide Mercado speaking to NPR. He stated in January that Village Without Borders is an organization that told us to join the caravan, that everything was going to be easy, but then you're on the road and it's really hard, really difficult. They deceive you. They say, you're going to the Mexico-U.S. border and we'll all cross together, but the truth is you can't do this. It's illegal. Activists have urged me, come on, darling, just jump the fence, but it's better to return to my country because that's against the law. They'll punish you. It's better to wait in line. So here people are being coerced and deceived and lured to the southern border with the point of breaking the law, to take some action that they otherwise probably wouldn't. They're being recruited along the way. They have shelters that are being built for them. They organize these caravans with the aim of protecting migrants and helping them to maintain their dignity. But I think these people are being exploited with the purpose of defeating U.S. immigration laws. And President Trump can certainly make that determination. He can dial up sanctions. If he determines under 22 U.S.C. 7108 actions against significant traffickers and persons, that he can exercise this against any foreign person that plays a significant role in severe forms of trafficking in person, directly or indirectly, into the United States. Well, that's what Pueblos Sin Fronteras is doing. They are recruiting tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, more migrants than we've seen in over a decade. There's creating a crisis on the southern border. It's filling up all of our shelters. There's not enough beds. President Trump wants to have 500 new miles of wall built by the end of next year. But in the meantime, the border is being flooded. Congress has not provided enough resources to secure the border. And so this is what happens when there's actually a concerted push to migrate hundreds of thousands of people to the United States illegally. That sounds like human trafficking, mass human trafficking on a scale that's not really been seen. And this group is absolutely taking action to get people here. They say they build shelters on their website. Here you can see some of the shelters, the before and after pictures. And it looks like they're definitely raising money to transport people to the U.S. southern border across all of these countries. And they're doing it on a mass basis. They're probably very well funded. So President Trump, he's authorized by Congress under 22 U.S.C. Section 7108 to sanction human traffickers, and he could slap economic and financial penalties on this group under 50 U.S.C. 1702. Now, this is the authority under the Economic Emergency Powers Act. He could seize up their financial accounts, transfers of credits. He could work with Mexican authorities to shut down the finances of the groups that are organizing these caravans under U.S. sanctions laws. And they're clearly recruiting people. Here's a brochure from 2017, April. It says participants in the caravan will meet in Tierra Bianca. Here, women and children await their loved ones and fellow companions who have made it to this point in the migratory route by train. So they're taking trains. They say that the local communities have demonstrated solidarity with them in southern Mexico. And they're going to continue coming here. And this was in 2017. They did the same thing in 2018. And in 2019, this has just been an explosion of people coming and utilizing these shelters along the way. I think that the President Trump should really be looking at who's financing all the building that's going on along Central America and Mexico to transport hundreds of thousands of people to the United States. Again, we're seeing numbers that we've never seen before, and this is something new. And I think President Trump certainly has the authority under U.S. laws to take action. And that's what we're encouraging here. There already appears to be significant progress being made to bring the numbers back to normal. And that's largely because of a June 7 deal that President Trump reached with Mexico. He said here on Twitter on June 7th, I am pleased to inform you that the U.S. has reached a signed agreement with Mexico. The tariff scheduled to be implemented against Mexico are hereby indefinitely suspended. Mexico, in turn, has agreed to strong measures to stem the tide of migration through Mexico and to our southern border. This is being done to greatly reduce or eliminate illegal immigration coming from Mexico and into the United States. Details of the agreement will be released shortly by the State Department. And here it is, the U.S. Mexico Joint Declaration of June 7. It stated that, quote, Mexico will take unprecedented steps to increase enforcement to curb irregular migration, to include the deployment of the National Guard throughout Mexico, giving priority to its southern border. Mexico is also taking decisive actions to dismantle human smuggling and trafficking organizations, as well as their illicit financial and transportation networks. Now, I can't tell you whether this organization, Pueblos Sin Fronteras, has been labeled as such, but I think that if President Trump deems them to be an illegal organization to traffic in humans, I think that actions could be taken. So that's what we're encouraging here at Americans for Limited Government. President Trump should do his constitutional duty to enforce the laws. Acting Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Mark Morgan on September 9th cited the agreement with Mexico as playing a critical factor in bringing down the amount of people, this 55% drop in the number of migrants coming across the southern border. He also said Mexico is taking meaningful and unprecedented steps, but, quote, they need to do more. Wow, I agree with that. I think Mexico should do more. Morgan also addressed whether the current drop is a seasonal drop or if U.S. policies are playing a role, stating, quote, the past 5 years, due to seasonal reasons, we've seen on average that the numbers drop from about 8% from their peak, usually in May. But if you go from June to July, those numbers have dropped by 40%. So there's a definite more of a precipitous drop here. I think that the U.S. and Mexico joint efforts are definitely playing a role here. If it had only gone down 8% since its peak, I think it'd still be in the neighborhood of over 100,000. So clearly the number of people getting across the border are significantly decreasing, and that's significant. The fact is migration remains highly elevated, though, and I think that you can look at the caravans that are being organized as the primary responsibility for why it continues to grow year on end. Next year, we'll see how effective the measures are. I think that we need to do more. The Congress has a role to play. President Trump expects 500 miles, a new wall, but is that enough? Congress could do more to ensure adequate resources to deal with the migration wave, including providing more for barrier construction, increasing the size of the Border Patrol, and ensuring enough facilities to detain people pending their hearings. Then there is the role that federal courts play. President Trump has a few new regulations that are coming to bear here. We need favorable rulings on letting asylum seekers waited out in Mexico pending their hearings, a key tenet of the U.S.-Mexico Joint Declaration, and on detaining parents and children together pending their hearings when they happen to get to the United States. President Trump is in the driver's seat, though, and he can make these determinations if he wants to increase pressure on Mexico with more tariffs or on these organizations with sanctions. He could certainly do that and should consider significant escalation against groups that are facilitating and housing hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants to make the trip to the southern border in the first place. That's not humanitarianism. It's human trafficking, and President Trump can do something about it. That's the commentary. This is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and have a good day.